I'm Matthew Kurbis, the subscription attorney, and this is Law Subscribed, your dedicated source for all things subscriptions and the law. After 4 years of teaching lawyers how to ditch billing time for subscriptions and practicing what I preach as a law firm owner, I started a legal tech company called Practi to make it easier for firms to trade billing time for predictable revenue. It's free to create an account, customize subscription packages, and sign up your first subscribing clients at Practi.ai. Thank you to my sponsors. See links to them in the show notes. Everything discussed is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Enjoy the show. I'm thrilled to have with me on this episode of Law Subscribed, Sonia Lakhany. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So just in case my audience hasn't come across 4L or any of the cool things you're doing for lawyers, you are a practitioner, but you help a lot of lawyers. And so give my audience your background.
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Sonia Lakhany, trademark attorney. I am trademark lawyer lady on Instagram, so a lot of you may know me that way. I'm actually trademark lawyer lady on most platforms, so it's pretty easy and consistent. And so, I've been practicing trademark law for this is now my 16th year we're going on of practice and year 11 that I've been out on my own. So, it was about 5 years or so from different firms and being an associate that I went on my own. And from that 15, 16 years, I would say about halfway through year 7 or 8 is when I started teaching how to practice trademarks to other attorneys, which then birthed a course called 2 Weeks to Trademarks. And that is what has had some very, very wild growth. And I'm so thankful for it. And was the starter for lots of other spin-off and topical courses around practicing and just being a little bit better at our jobs. And so where 4L comes in is that, if you're a lawyer, you know that you didn't learn to practice law in law school. If you're not a lawyer, that's true. The rumors are true. And so the reason we went with 4L education for the overall brand is, as a good trademark attorney does love a good name, I wanted to choose something that encompassed the idea that it would have been really nice to have an extra year at the end to, learn how to do our jobs or to be exposed to different practice areas and what they involve substantively, but also what they involve lifestyle wise, because it is a duo of a decision when you make that commitment. And so we went with the name 4L for the year that we all should have had, that we all deserved and never got, at a fraction of the price, because it's not a 6-figure year for our courses. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, and look, in my opinion, I think I wish you would have just named your company 3L and law school was only 2 years
Yeah.
and 100K instead of 150K. Am I right?
Exactly. Or even, I think we could have covered the IRAC and LRAC formatting and all the case theory in 1 year. Second year for what would have been the equivalent of rotations and residencies. Call it, and then we would have been go fly, But maybe someday we'll see.
I Look, something I've been experimenting with it with AI is if I actually need to write something in IRAC format, which is not common, but if I did, I'd put like that. I'd go into Perplexity. I'd say, give me a good definition of IRAC that you learned in law school. I'd attach that as a source in Notebook LM or in Paxton or something, and I'd say, here's the format I want you to use. Write this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like what are we learning that for anyway? In law school.
What it gave us the ability to find the answer, which is we are really holding on to that statement. I mean, it's just like that has carried us through our entire career. It's like, oh no, I didn't not learn how to practice law, but I learned how to find the answer. And that is a very important skill set, I will say, that has served me in many other areas of my life, the ability to find the solution. So fine, they gave us something and sent us off in the world. But I just had my
Yeah.
15-year law school reunion last year, and then I went to it. And so it's fun to obviously catch up with the faculty and the staff and all your professors for them to be like, did you name your company 4L as in like a little? I was like, oh no, like, that's not how I meant it, but it is a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And look, this is not a legal education podcast, but maybe like longtime followers might know that I used to be really involved with legal education. And so I can't help but talk about its failures a little bit when like a company like 4L Education comes on the pod.
Let's keep it real, and I think that, but isn't that also part of what we learned is how to have healthy, respectful discourse and dialogue where you can share an opposing opinion and it's not personal, it's not emotional, but it's just some factual observations over the years that, we all know that law school is not a perfect journey and it's not a perfect solution or preparation. So there's that. It prepares you to take the bar, which is a separate thing. So.
Yeah. So the listeners always like to know, did you ever have to bill by the hour?
Great question. And yes, when I was forced to as an associate, and I think that was the last time. So I have always been efficiency minded. And I think that trait has really been one of the core skills that sparked entrepreneurship that has sustained the success that I've had is I always look for efficiency in anything. I'm like, that seems, why are we doing it that way? Even in my personal life, I'm like, I have systems set up for where like, okay, well, we need a charger for the same USB-C charger now, seemingly. Okay, well, there's one in the car, there's one here that, like, let's just eliminate friction, let's maintain efficiency. So when it comes to the billable hour question, I always felt like that was problematic for me because I am efficient. And so I work fast and I work fairly accurately. And so I'm only able to bill zero point 0.7, and I got to make 1900 of these little pesky buggers. So it's like, I felt like I was being penalized in a way by the structure of that system that has just been for so many years of just this is how we do it. And I felt like I'm being penalized in a way for just being a fast worker and a fast thinker and a fast writer, right? And so I've never liked the billable hour. I was forced into it. I do see how it was very much a product of the way we've always done things. This is just what works. But as soon as I resigned, which was not related to the billable hour conversation, it's just wanting freedom and wanting to be my own boss and that kind of stuff, the autonomy. But when I resigned, I was like, it's a complete white slate. I can do everything the way I want to. And so the fun part about that is I could take what made sense to me or what felt like it would resonate, and I could leave behind what didn't work out for me. And so one of the things I'd always wanted as an associate at the firms I'd been at was to do trademarks on a flat fee basis. It just made sense to me. And then once I broke out into the real world and had that autonomy, I realized that most practitioners that were small, medium size is exactly what they were doing, is doing flat fee or subscription and sandwiching trademarks as part of a larger offering that went on monthly as a subscription. So I did away with that pretty much on day one. And even though the beginning years of my pricing model, so I price trademarks, and the way I teach it to my attorneys is in two ways, which I'm happy to talk about. But even in developing both of those pricing structures, the approximate time it takes to do something correctly and efficiently was always part of the calculation. It's just not part of the invoicing and a straight hours times hourly rate equals what the client pays. But it's something you have to take into account, is like approximately how long does it take to do X or Y, and then we build that into. So I guess it gave me a good foundational idea of how to start setting my prices, but not a fan of the billable hour, and I don't even teach it in my courses. So
Yeah, it just it strikes me as like really important for folks to realize that as soon as you had the power to choose what your business model was, that you didn't choose to do it
yeah.
how it was always done, right?
That was the
So
fun part of
so
it, was being able to do everything my way. Yeah.
yeah, and so even though like for lawyers transitioning from hourly billing to subscription or fixed fee, and at the end of the day, the way I always teach subscriptions is it's a recurring fixed fee, right? It's like
Yes.
whether that's every month, every quarter, every year, and benefits expire, whatever the time frame is. So then it might help to think about, oh, maybe how long does this take, right? But especially in this AI powered automated world that we're living in now, even if that's okay for benchmarking as the transition is made, like if that's the value of your service and clients are willing to pay you, if you could shrink the time that it takes you to do it, that's more profit for you, right?
100%. 100%. And there's this age old analogy that I'm sure you've heard, at least, and maybe you share it too, is the one of the plumber, where the fact that he can show up, look at it, and in 30 seconds go, this is what you need, I've got the extra part in my truck, and gets it done. You're paying for that efficiency on someone else's part, is that they've taken the time to study and research and perfect something. And I see it come up in my law practice, the fact that someone can send me a serial number and it's a mess of a trademark application, and it's got all these different issues and office actions, and it's all disorganized and messy, and I can take one look at it and go, well, XYZ is the problem, and this is, and not even 5 minutes, right? Is to just know that. And so if I'm tied to an hourly rate, I mean, that just is like, that doesn't even measure up to the years of education and trial and error and experience that comes with. So I've always really liked that analogy, and I think that's really what we pay for when we hire experts for anything. Is there? I don't want you to take 6 hours to do it, because now that's a waste of my time. I've got to be home while you come, as if we're going with the plumber thing. So I think,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Right, right. And sometimes getting things done faster is more valuable than if they were paying by the hour. And so the amount that you could charge varies widely when you think about the value of what you're giving to your customer or your client, instead of just how long did it take you to do it, which is a really lazy way to do business if you think about it.
Yes. And I also feel like, I like this topic because I think it talks about so many other things that are so important to law firm ownership and entrepreneurship, which is scalability, delegation, obviously the efficiency question. But even if you go with hourly, right? And it's like, okay, well, there's only one of you, meaning you can only bill so many hours in a day. So that means somehow you're capped at how much revenue you can make. And so, I mean, if you're wedded to hourly billing, you must hate money. I guess you just hate money because you're capped at a certain amount. Whereas you could say, fine, no, Sonia, I'm going to hire a paralegal and she can also bill by the hour. So now I'm cloning myself. You see, I took something out of something you said. And I said, but you can't bill her or him at the same rate. So you're still losing money. Even if you do the delegation thing and you take pieces out of all this knowledge that's out there and these principles of entrepreneurship, you're still losing money on it. Whereas if you get something done in 5 minutes, that frees you up to take the other thing that takes 5 minutes. And there's no cap. And especially if you start to use AI to lessen even that 5 minutes on your part, I mean, now you're in uncharted territory. And I also feel like there's a level of the commitment to autonomy that's always driven how I do things. Is like, if I don't want to physically sit down and work, I shouldn't have to. But of course, we don't want the margins to suffer. And I think flat fee is a way around that too, which is a client pays you. How, when you get that done is I get that done and the firm gets that is our business, right? We don't want to have to show. I mean, I guess you have the choice of not revealing the hour in which you worked, but like, I'm a 1 a.m.er, I'm a night owl by nature. And so if I'm having to show that too, is like, I feel like it undercuts my autonomy to an extent of being able to execute the matter and the task the way that I see fit. So there's a lot that goes into it.
It is so great having a content creator on the pod, because that was so clippable, Sonia. That was so good.
I got you.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm so glad you said all that, because I think it drives home the point, going back to where we started this part of the conversation, is using how long it takes as a benchmark to start setting your pricing really starts to fall apart when you start thinking about these things. And so I don't want, just because you're coming from a billable hour mindset, you shouldn't use how long it takes as a crutch, because very quickly, Sonia, like you were just talking about, the faster you could do it, not only can you maybe charge more than you ever would have made on a billable hour, but also, and whether that's for that client or because, like you said, that thing only took you 5 minutes, you could do 100 more of those things, right? So like the volume with the automations, but then it's the margins of it all. Like you said, like I could hire another associate or a paralegal or team, and at a certain point you should, but the margins are not there compared to just, how can I take this 1 hour thing, take 15 minutes? How can I just automate it? Oh, the client's still willing to pay for that at the same rate, right? Those margins are way higher than I have to pay this person a salary. And like, yes, I'll try to get, they have to bill out at 3x, when I'm paying them. Well, your margins could be a lot higher if you don't have to do that. Not saying we shouldn't hire people. It's really good to hire people, but expand your margins first.
Yes, yes. And that actually relates to something else that I feel that fits very well here, which is the concept or the analogy of a restaurant in any given night, right? So you're the manager of a popular restaurant and you've got all these tables all night long. And most things just go kind of smoothly, but then there's that one table where, it just was a mess, right? The entrees came out wrong, something that went wrong in the kitchen. So as the manager, you comp the two entrees and you throw on a dessert, right? Just to make it right. And if you're thinking here, elementary level, sort of foundational thinking, you're like, well, gosh, we lost money. But it's like, no, because we're not doing that for every table. And we're not doing that every night either. And so maybe you lost money on that one. Okay, now let's bring it back to that one client or on that one matter. But overall, as the firm, for your daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly profit revenue margins, you're doing great. And so even when, because it winds back to the whole, well, what if I do a flat fee, right? There's so much what ifing that goes on when we
Oh,
challenge
yeah.
these
Yeah.
beliefs, right? Okay, so we're in the what if zone. Well, what if something, I quote something and it took me a lot longer. Okay, so it did. You learned for next time because there's going to be a next time and you're going to be better and faster. But also, you're not comping the dessert and entrees that's how often is that happening? Right. And so then, I mean, if it is happening fairly often, then all that is a signal to raise your flat fee to a place where you feel like it is a fair exchange for your time spent. But more likely it's going to be, it just revealed inefficiencies and maybe a learning curve in something. Okay, so it won't be like that for next time. And so overall your margins and your revenue is still going to be higher over the course of a time period. And I mean, so, I don't think you're one of these people, but in case anybody that's listening is, I hope it's not crass that we talk so directly and clearly about revenue and money, because last time I checked, we were all in this to be profitable companies, right? Like none of us are really doing full-time pro bono work. So we have to think about those things, even if it feels uncomfortable to some listeners. So I apologize if so, but that's the name of this game. So we're protecting profitability.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it's going to be uncomfortable. When a whole profession needs to shift from the way they've normally done things to like a new model, right? Like it's going to be uncomfortable. That's okay, and I think one of a lot of the what ifs of flat feeing work that maybe used to be billable get solved when you bring in the subscription revenue of it all. Right, because if you're worried about, and you, this is great. I usually talk about it in the subscription space, but you're even talking about it in the fixed fee space, like at a restaurant. Like you don't like lose yourself in the trees when you got to look at like the whole forest and like groom like the whole forest, right? And so with subscriptions, you can think about lifetime value, right? Like, okay, yes, like maybe this one page of this 50-page contract is taking more time, or this one matter for this client, but they're a subscriber. And over the life of them being a client at my firm, even if I spend a little bit more time on a thing here or there, and I maybe would have maximized my short-term revenue, I may lose that client. And the lifetime revenue, the decades of revenue for providing valuable legal service would not be there anymore. And so it's hard when you're trying to maximize revenue in the short term to think about that. Well, like, what are the long-term implications? And when you bill by the hour, that's where your mind is, but it doesn't have to be there. And so I really love that you brought that up outside of the subscription context, but subscriptions really help drive home what you were talking about, because now you actually know what revenue you could generate long term.
Yes, 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 yes. And the reality is that sometimes you have to engage in non-scalable activities to build a scalable business. You just have to. You have to take the L on a certain page of contract or look at a really finagled matter and unpack it and figure out what happened there. But it's always learning for next time. It always helps your issue spotting in the future. And that way you can also decide. I mean, you're faced with so many decisions and information when you go through your days as a business owner. And it can reveal something in the sense of, okay, maybe I don't want to take on these exact type of matters, right? So in the trademark world, it could look very specific, like a multi-class application is far more complicated. A multi-class hybrid application is far more complicated than a single class in use application, right? And so maybe because it took longer and it's so much, specimens and dates and things to unpack, that could be a gap that's revealed to us to say, okay, maybe in this season, I don't take multi-class hybrid applications if I feel like they're taking too long. That is very valuable information. So you have to engage in non-scalable activities to build a scalable business sometimes. And I think the what if thing is huge, and we see it in every corner that we try to make decisions. What if this happens? What if that? Then it does. Then you can change it the next day. And that's another thing I feel like is really important is, okay, bill by the hour, go nuts. One day it will feel like you don't want to anymore, and then you can change it, right? So, or try flat fees, try subscription, just try on try it on for size. Do it for a quarter, do it for a month or a week, or do it on the next 3 clients that approach you. This is something I think a lot of law firm owners don't feel the freedom to do, is you can change what you want to do with a client from client to client all day long. You want to charge for the consult, next one you don't charge for it. See if that makes a difference. You can change the variables, keep them constant. That's how you learn. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so even if you decide you want to do flat fees on only a certain type of matters or for a certain amount of time, at least try it on. Because I think a big part of learning and being successful as a business owner, law firm owner, is you have to be willing to try new things, even if you hate it. And you can decide it doesn't work, but you got to at least try.
Yeah, yeah, and sort of like implicit in everything you're talking about, Sonia, is I think you've got this abundance mindset where like you're like, well, there's plenty of clients out there, and there's plenty of like part of what you do with 4L education is you're training the competition, right? Like why do that?
Oh, I'm so happy you asked that, because this is like one of my favorite things to talk about is what were you thinking for yourself? Like, just curious minds want to know. People who have like they're, immigration crim, they're like, why would she do that? And then it's obviously my colleagues in this space that are like, why would you do that? So it's like, what's wrong with you? And to that I would say, the answer may surprise you. My trademark practice has skyrocketed since I started teaching other attorneys how to do exactly what I do. And I have identified there's a very concrete reason why, is because as marketing and publicity for the courses grew, right? I feel like after so many years now and hundreds of attorneys that have gone through 2 weeks to trademarks, it is the go-to suggested source, right? I mean, it's like how Uber and Lyft are the answer to rideshare. And maybe there's other ones, maybe not, but like that's who we think of. My program and I have become synonymous with learning trademarks if someone is looking to enter that space. And for that, I am so grateful. But it's also been years of marketing and changing. And so what's happened is in the growth of that brand comes me and the growth of my personal brand, which is Sonia Does Trademarks. She teaches attorneys how to do trademarks. So even if you never want to enter that world ever, you're still an attorney that cannot unhear that. And so if a trademark comes across your desk, or a client of yours asks for a referral or anything like that, right? I mean, it's the more we specialize, the more we see unrelated matters. Immediately, you're going to go, well, I know she does that, and the course taught you that. The course advertisement taught you that. I know there's an attorney out there who does that. So I think it just grew the messaging without. It was not by design, but it has absolutely grown my practice to a point where, and again, it all came full circle, but now it's to a point where I get so many inquiries and leads and people contacting us that not only can we don't have, I mean, no firm has the infrastructure to handle all the clients ever. It absolutely is an abundance mindset, right? But I mean, that's great news to any attorney looking to enter this space, is that there's more than enough for everyone to eat, first of all. And it comes full circle because now I get to look at the inquiry that came in, identify how complicated and gnarly of a matter, if it's fairly straightforward, and then present it as a referral of a potential client to my alumni. So attorney goes through the program, maybe they're still in it. And I'm like, hey, I've got a potential client for you. And so it comes full circle where you're not even worried about like, how am I going to get this thing off the ground now that I've learned the practice area? Because I say this often, but there's no fun in learning a practice area if you have no one to do it for. You're just sitting at home, like dressed for the Met Gala that you got no invitation to. So that's no fun. And so it does help kind of close the loop on that. And what better feeling is to be able to serve, the students in my program are attorneys, but I look at them like my clients, to be able to serve my clients in a way that they weren't expecting. So it's like you took the investment in a program, and now I can help that growth continue to your first couple clients too. Is it, we don't, I'm still a lawyer, so we don't write that in any of there's no guarantee of that, but I've been known to do that quite often. So yeah, it comes full circle. And I definitely feel like teaching my competition has, number one, only grown my firm. But to me, that's not even, it's so far down the list of important things. To me, it's grown the profession. It's increased eyes and ears on this as a practice area at all, which I feel like we needed. Trademarks was so slept on and underrated and not considered as a major practice area. So it's grown that and has exposed, again, gaps and inefficiencies in the profession. And so if that's a problem for people, I think that's unfortunate, but I think we can only all get better from that. So yeah, it's counterintuitive. You'd never think so, but here we are.
In not that we're in an economic downturn yet. We've been on the cusp for a recession for a while. It feels
Yeah.
like it hasn't quite happened, although certainly costs are rising. But whenever like we feel this way, or we are in a recession or economic downturn, like that's when companies like Google and Facebook were founded, right? Like this is when
Yes.
like giant companies. So it actually spurs on entrepreneurship. And guess what? When there's more entrepreneurs, what do they need?
Yeah.
Brand protection, baby.
We
Like,
are
that's what
here to
they
serve
need.
at your service. Absolutely. And then thank you. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I mean, it's, I, w- I am stumped to find a practice area that is as sustainable and robust as trademarks, because when the economy is good, trademarks are up. When it's bad, trademarks are up, because you have what you just said, but then you also have, again, it takes a couple steps to get there, but you have people, if you're truly entering a recession and a downturn, you have people unfortunately either getting laid off or hours being cut, or overall just maybe dissatisfaction. Prices of things are going up. So no matter how you slice that pie, there's this need and want on for the average person to want, the average American to want to earn more money, in the art of the side hustle, right? That term is becoming huge the last few years, of the 5 to 9 around your 9 to 5. And again, every side hustle, no matter what it is, at least has to answer the question, do you need a trademark or not? Maybe you don't. Not every business owner does, but every business owner needs to at least have answered the question and considered it, to be on the right path. And so again, anytime you see people looking to increase their income and start side hustles, start new businesses, everything needs a name. Everything needs a logo. And the more we can encourage business owners to choose names and logos that are protectable, it's only going to benefit them. But at least we've got the conversation going. So it really is, it's something that I feel like is such a lucrative practice area, not only because the demand for it is ever increasing, but then on the supply side, meaning the attorneys that provide that service, well, you have oceans of opportunity. I say this as I'm looking at an ocean. So Matthew and I, just before the recording started, we're talking about how the beauty of trademarks, and it relates to where I am. I'm in Turks and Caicos, and I came here just the other day, and it's the beauty of the practice area. I can't take credit for this small part. I can't take credit for the nature. By definition, you can be anywhere if you want to practice trademarks as an attorney, and so can your clients. Imagine not being chained by your local jurisdiction, where you can't leave because you have to go to court physically, or you can't market your services outside for whatever reason. And your clients can be anywhere also. So you really have the world at your fingertips while you're anywhere in the world. And so that opens up oceans of opportunity also. So half of it could be, well, all right, how many business owners could possibly need me in my local jurisdiction? We don't even need to cap it there. So it's unlimited potential. And I think that's what makes it such a lucrative practice area with so much opportunity. And because you can do it from anywhere, I mean, your lifestyle automatically gets a little better, even if it's being more present with your kids, right? Because anywhere doesn't have to mean an ocean. It can mean I'm on the floor playing Legos and I'm not worried about how many hours I've billed to make my goals or to reach a certain number of revenue, right? I mean, you're able to, again, I mean, there's layers to this, but you're able to bill on a flat fee, which is really the industry standard now. And I do take a little bit of credit for that, is pushing that very strongly to anyone who will listen. So we have the industry standard that we're billing by a flat fee or subscription. And then you have, well, I don't even need to be present for a lot of it, because trademarks lends itself so well to processes and systems and templates that you're able to scale it fairly easily, and it doesn't require you to be in person at any given time. So I feel like trademarks attracts the attorneys that are either looking for more lifestyle, remote, virtual freedom, but that can mean traveling, can also just mean being able to make your kids soccer games and plays and be able to shut the laptop when one of them gets sick. And as someone who does not have kids, but is the auntie to many nieces and nephews, I know that those babies get sick on a moment's notice, and you got to run to daycare, bring them home. They've got a 103 fever. And now, I mean, your day is shot, right? You've got to be home, and that's all we care about, is getting that baby back to health. And so to be able to know that your work is not suffering and that you're not actually needed is the epitome of freedom, I think, is to be able to do whatever it is you want with your time, even if it's to be, more present. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
And, and look, right, like I explored adding trademarks to my fractional GC work, which is limited to Illinois for my my licensed jurisdiction. And for me, they're like the work you're doing, and there are enough trademark attorneys that when like things come in, or I tell my client, hey, you should really try to register and protect your brand here. I have plenty of people I can recommend, right? Some have been guests on this podcast, and so you join a good alumni group there, Sonia. So the other thing is though is like, look, uh, even being like locked in to my jurisdiction, the latent legal market is so big. Like, to just sort of like wrap up this thought on abundance is, even if we're not in an economic downturn and there's a boom of entrepreneurship, the vast majority of potential clients out there can't afford or are refusing to pay billable hours, right? $400 billion spent on the U.S. legal market in 2024 is the most reliable data we have. We know 77% or more of the market is not being served. So if 23% of the market is $400 billion, I mean, you've got around a $1.3 trillion market opportunity. So like there's plenty of clients out there, I think, is the takeaway. But to your point, like, my perspective is, when it comes to subscriptions, like, a trademark practice is amazing potential, right? Like you said, jurisdiction free, right? Federal practice. Clients could be anywhere. You could be anywhere. And brand protection is an ongoing thing, right? And so, some of the early movers in the subscription legal services space, in the IP space, right? Because of brand protection. So that, I'm obviously, of course, curious to get your thoughts on any of that. But
Yeah.
my question for you, Sonia, is like, have you experimented with or explored or seen other lawyers who you've taught using subscriptions for trademarks or other related practices? Let me tell you about the brand new sponsor for Law Subscribed, Paxton. I've been using Paxton as my legal AI tool for over 2 years. I continue to evaluate and demo other legal AI tools in the market and still decide to stick with Paxton because of its reliability, its accuracy, its ease of use, affordability, and they do not lock you into a long-term contract. Now, as a transactional and fractional general counsel attorney, I'm using Paxton for all of my substantive and non-substantive legal work, whether that's legal research, analysis, drafting, or enhancing existing legal work product. In the time it used to take me to draft and analyze legal documents, now, after a little bit of back and forth with Paxton, I have something ready to go in minutes that used to take hours or even days. While I'm no longer a litigator, I could see how valuable Paxton would be when researching a new issue, preparing for a deposition, drafting a motion, or going to trial. So if your firm would benefit from using Paxton as your legal AI tool, then make sure to use the link in the description when signing up to let Paxton know I sent you. That's all about our new sponsor. Now back to the show.
Absolutely. I've done it. I've worked with other attorneys that do it. It fits so nicely in, well, not only with trademarks as one piece of a larger offering. I love that you said fractional GC, because that was the top of my list. I mean, it fits so perfectly. So if you're the attorney that offers formations, contracts, strategy, those sorts of things, I mean, it nestles so well. But even in my own practice, so I have famously only been a one-trick pony, which is trademarks, all these years. And even within trademarks, and again, I can't take credit for this piece of it, but it is one of the few practice areas that has built-in repeat work. And what I mean by that is, unlike, let's say, a divorce or an immigration, I mean, not to be mistaken with your client giving you a referral for another matter. I'm saying the exact same client needing you again for the exact same thing, meaning that trademarks have built-in renewal and maintenance work. Right. Every 5 to 6 years, the first 5 to 6 years from a trademark registering, there's a deadline of a filing to keep it going. Then every 10 years thereafter, indefinitely. And so that's kind of cool, right? Is it's an asset of the company that just lives forever and ever, and it would be included in any and all agreements that talk about any other assets, right? But so in perpetuity. But then also you have this idea of, well, now that we've got the very expensive iPhone and I'm leaving the Mac store, I wouldn't dare not get a case on it. What if I drop it on the way out, which the best of us could, right? And so the case for the iPhone to protect it would be, let's say, monitoring or watch services. Right. So you've got built in more repeat work. You have IP audits that are so profitable and lucrative to do, let's say, quarterly for your existing client base. Then one step after that is, well, the same mark that we registered in one class, right? So just a quick background on what I suppose we could have started there, but it's okay. A trademark is the protection on a name, logo, or slogan for the product or service that's being sold underneath that mark, right? So Nike as a word, Nike, the swoosh that we all see, all trademark examples. Well, a class is the category that's
Just do
assigned.
it as
The
the
slogan.
phrase,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
all
yeah.
those are marks, and you can think of them as horses that operate in separate lanes. And so maybe Nike uses the word Nike on everything. So clothing is a category class, shoes as a class, and so on. But maybe they only use the word just do it on backpacks, right? Which is a category. So a category or a class is one of 45, and there's only 45 of them that would be assigned to the good or class that, or the good or service that's being sold, right? And so maybe your client that you just served had a trademark and they got it on clothing. Great. Well, now they want to expand, let's say, into the home goods space. So now they want to do candles and decorative items. They're back for the exact same thing to file for a new category. Well, now they're like, okay, we got Nike done and it's zipped up to everything we want to sell underneath it, present or future, right? Because we've got in use and intent to use someday applications. Well, now we've got a logo and we've got an application that we need, and so on. So the same client, not only do you have repeat work on the same trademark that just keeps building, right? You have the renewal maintenance, you have the protection, the watch services, the monitoring, all that stuff, strategy, licensing first from it, all kinds of stuff, and then it truly does spawn out into far more things. So it's so different than, let's say, a divorce client where, I mean, you hope, I mean, I guess, most of the time people aren't getting divorced more than once or twice in their lifetime, we hope,
Well,
right? I don't know.
well, they have to comply with the marital settlement agreement, or they have to comply with the divorce decree, and so there's maintenance for everything.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious to know, since you help lawyers, do add trademarks on. Like, I want to know some of the, and I don't really do prep before these interviews. So, if you tell me, Sonia, if you're like, I don't want to share this
No,
information,
I don't mind.
but
I'm an open book.
like demographics of where law firms or lawyers are coming from that you're training. Like, are they associates at firms that want to leave and start their own practice? Are they solos who want to add trademarks? Or have they been doing trademarks forever, but they want to be better at it? Like, as I see a lot of lawyers who are leaving big law, or even more in-house lawyers than you might think, who want to go and start their own practice using subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see, like, are you seeing, like, any big law lawyers, like, who are like taking your course and then going and starting their own firm, and like share any other demographic information you're open to sharing, please?
Absolutely open. And I think it's a little bit of almost everything you said. So we have a couple different demographics that make up the our student base. And when I say student, I mean attorneys. So
Yeah.
definitely, first and foremost, if you're a solo or small firm attorney, maybe not even a partner in that small or medium firm, but an associate. So we have absolutely those attorneys that want to improve their trademark skills. So the course has two versions. So there's the base version, which is teach me trademarks thoroughly, A to Z, in and out. But I've got the inquiries coming in. That's why I'm here. I don't want to refer it anymore, right? I want to start keeping this revenue, or I want to stop dabbling in it because I know dang well I've been messing around with, trademarks is one of those things where if you do one, you think you can do all of them. But it's like a contract too, where you don't know there's a problem until it's too late and it was poorly written, right? And so people think, okay, but if you have that awareness, you're going to say, okay, I've been dabbling. Now's the time to really learn it properly and to do that process. So that's one major, I would say, demographic that is getting the inquiries. And that's what the base version of 2 Weeks of Trademarks was designed for. Then you've got the second version that's premium, that has a ton more modules. So yes, you're still learning trademarks, but it goes back to, well, there's no point if you have no one to do it for. So we talk about how to price your services, how to do a consultation, what questions to ask, what questions you're going to need to answer, obviously how to market this practice area, how to get clients, how to develop business. And because I believe so strongly that there's no point in learning it unless you're able to market it. And so I teach all of the strategies I use to build my practice, who I marketed to. And again, trademarks is unique in this sense where there is a certain group of people that very clearly see trademarks far more often than we ever will as trademark attorneys. And so I teach who those people are in the course, how to find them. I don't like to speak vaguely necessarily. I like to give concrete examples. So a very concrete example of that would be franchise attorneys, brokers, consultants, anyone in the franchising space, because a lot of people don't realize this, but in order to fully complete the franchise disclosure documents and go through that process, you can't rent out what doesn't belong to you, which franchising is the rental to someone else of a brand. Well, if you don't own the brand, and so in most cases, it's required to at least have an application pending. So that's working smarter, not harder. Now you go locate and network and build relationships with franchise attorneys and brokers and consultants, anyone in that space, because they're like, yeah, we see this all day. We're like, go see Sonia. When you're done, come back here. And so there's obviously a trust among colleagues that, you're not but I wouldn't steal a franchising client because I don't know how to do franchising. And likewise, they don't want to learn trademarks for whatever reason. So people like to stay in their lanes. And so I teach in the premium tier, I teach all the marketing and sort of best kept secrets like that. And so who benefits from that premium version is the second demographic, which is if you're an attorney you're just simply exhausted from your practice area, you're burned out, you can't litigate anymore, you're tired of being in court, you're tired of the types of clients you're serving, right? Trademarks is generally happy law. Our clients are pretty positive. You're doing happy things and they're coming to you willingly. And they're pretty peaceful and respectful for the most part. And so that's a second major demographic that the program is really well suited for, is because there's not a lot of resources out there where you can come in knowing not even what a trademark is and be practicing, 2 to 3 weeks later. Now, I want to add that the 2 weeks of trademarks name does not, I mean, the course lasts for 2 weeks. It doesn't mean that you're an expert and you're 25 years of equivalent practice in 2 weeks. There's no such thing. But we had to pick a name for it. And I like the alliteration of 2 weeks of trademarks because that's how long the course duration is. But at the same time, I think that it is okay to say that you will be and feel competent to practice because the knowledge gives you that. So that's the second demographic. And then the third one is also.
Wait.
Yeah,
I just have to quickly interject.
sure,
You're
yeah.
telling me the trademark lawyer lady likes alliterations?
Yeah, yeah. It's my weakness. I just love it. If you ever followed me in the early days, if you're listening, you may remember the very beginnings where I was Lady Lanham ESQ on Instagram. This was like 2014, 15. I was on Twitter under the same name, and the Lanham Act is the federal law that provides trademark protection in the US. And nobody knew what the Lanham Act was. And so bad branding up. But trademark lawyers are in the business of protecting brands. We're not the best branding people out. We're not creative. So we get into it because we think it's fun and interesting, but you got to get good at it. So then we went a little more concrete. And so I would say the third major demographic is also what you named, which is a huge piece for us now, is we do customized trainings for big law firms, their associates who are coming on, and to get them proficient so that partners are not wasting valuable time and money training them. It can also lend itself to someone who is being borrowed from another practice area for maternity leave or for coverage or overage help, right? Just to get somebody, any scenario where an attorney needs to get up to speed in an efficient, clear way, is the program is a great fit. And so all that to say, who I would say it's not a good fit for is someone who is really happy with their current practice area, because it's still a grind, right? Unless your firm is paying for it, for that training for you to get proficient, but that's a different structure. But if you're just looking for like a gimmicky sort of like, we see these ads a lot, which is like make 30K in 3 days. Like that's not what this is. Not to be confused with the results of my students, which are very numerically impressive, to the tune of my students are doing 50K months, 100K months practicing only trademarks. And I had one attorney, and I interview a lot of them on my YouTube channel. So if you're ever interested, you can go look. But these attorneys are doing 50, 100K plus month after month doing trademarks. So it sounds like a get rich quick scheme, but it's not. So if you're not interested in the very much of a grind and working towards that, it's still a law practice at the end of the day. It's just a very lucrative one. So there is work attached to it. No matter, there's no printing of money in lawyering, at least not right away.
What's the YouTube channel called?
Oh, it's just Trademark Lawyer Lady again. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So my trademark channel.
You got it. Definitely link in the show notes to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I still a bit of a lingering question. Going back to my old deposition days where I had to take depositions. I'm gonna push the question on you, Sonia, one more time and just ask like do you know, like, can you think of like even like one person who like they actually hated the hamster wheel of billing time in big law or at a bigger firm or at a firm, and like hated it, and so they came through your program specifically so that they could get off of that hamster wheel?
Many examples there. I mean, I've had the privilege of teaching at this point now hundreds of attorneys that have gone through this program or some version of one of the courses I offer, because 2 weeks of trademarks is the main signature offering, but there are attorneys that have been practicing for a certain amount of time, and so maybe they don't need the A to Z, but they want a very topical training on something very specific, which the 4L education courses cover most of the major areas. So I would say that client base, student base, is in the thousands of attorneys we've served, but specifically for 2 weeks of trademarks, in the hundreds and hundreds. And I would say a good 50-60% of those attorneys were dissatisfied with some aspect of how they were running their practice before. A lot of it, yeah, a lot of it has to do with hourly billing. A lot of it has to do with the practice area or the clientele type. And a, even a lot of it could do with how they were running the firm, or boundary setting, or just processes and things like that. And so within the program, because I scaled my firm so successfully, there are so many transferable skills that end up being taught in the program also. And so the attorneys are able to have more satisfaction overall, because they're like, I know I came here to learn trademarks, but she taught me along the way, how to block my time, how to plan my work week in an efficient way where I'm freeing up time, how to develop templates or processes around what an SOP even is and how to integrate, right? These very transferable core skills. But specifically when we talk about the rescuing from hourly billing, it is a very common thing I see, because it's all that's taught to us until recently, right? I don't know what the law school curriculums look like nowadays, but I do know that more and more clinics are being featured where we have real practitioners like you and me coming in and being able to speak on the newer way of doing things. But if you're an attorney that's, let's say, 3 to 5 or more years out, you got that older thinking. And so it is up to us to kind of have these conversations and teach you the new ways. So yes, we have seen a lot of overall increase in satisfaction, definitely.
Yeah, definitely didn't think about the business model of law when I was in law school, for sure, right? I guess lectured like over 10 times for sure in 2025. Like I did 52 speaking engagements in 2025, which is crazy. Of
Nice.
course, we were at one of the
Yeah.
ones that we both had a speaking gig. Shout outs to Tyson at Max
Hey,
LaCon
Tyson.
and Maximum Lawyer. Hey, hey. And so and they, most of them were not paid. Most of them are not to potential clients, right? Like sometimes spreading the good word about subscriptions, like that's just what you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess lectured a lot last year. And I've already like we're recording this in January, so folks can know how early I record these things sometimes. But I've already done 2 guest lectures, and I've already got 3 more scheduled, and we're like a month into the year. So like law librarians or like certain like other professors in law school are bringing in real practitioners like me and Sonia to go in and talk about business of law stuff. And I think that's really great.
It's so needed. It's so needed, especially because I feel like if you are at all the kind of person that has an interest in entrepreneurship, wants autonomy, right? And it's a trade-off. This is a whole nother podcast and a whole nother conversation of, is entrepreneurship in the legal space or any space right for you? Because there's a trade-off of stability and security versus, you know, not so much. But even that, I mean, I was never really a litigator, but I think that I have the skill set to question and unpack certain things like a litigator would. And so I would even question the security of your job in the hands of 5 to 10 people that have meetings and retreats in the Turks without you. You know what I mean? And so it's like they get to decide whether you have a job in a year, or your bonus or whatever. So would question the security of security. But that being said, I think if you're a law school and you have a student base, some portion of those students are going to go on to own their own firms. They just are, because it's just a life, for no other reason but for a lifestyle fit. And so we have to
And
teach the
AI
right
is
way.
making it way easier to run a practice and make it more
It's
affordable
never
these
been
days too. So like
easier.
it's a viable option coming out of law school more than it's ever been before.
It blows my mind. I mean, as a millennial, I feel so fortunate that I get to, right? Because it's very much a privilege to have gotten to grow my career in the age of social media. I just dropped my AirPods, sorry. To grow my business in the age of social media. And now I get to do AI on top. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's never been easier, and we've never had more tools at our fingertips. And I think the COVID lockdown definitely introduced that to more people. I saw a huge spike in inquiries from that time forward, because it gave, I think, everyone in the legal profession permission to put virtual practice as a priority. Because before, I remember opening my practice in early 2015 and it being very much a question of like, so do you have a brick and mortar space? Oh, you do. Okay. So you're real, like you're legit. And then all of a sudden during COVID, it was like, why are you paying for such a waste of money? And now, I mean, it's trendy or common sense not to, unless you, well, why would you if you don't have to? And it's like, yeah. So the trends change and what's acceptable change. But I think the profession needed permission. And thankfully, a lot of us got it, right? Because I saw, do you feel like you saw a huge spike in the conversation and the discourse from then on?
I mean, for me, I had been exploring subscription-based legal services since like 2018. But when the pandemic hit, that's when I really started to go. That's when I started to record for this podcast. That's when like I really started to speak about it
Hmm.
and learn more about it. And like, of course, billable hour firms who are in court every day, were billing half or all their time in court, had zero revenue, right?
It's wild, and especially to feel like you're. I mean, everyone's working hard if you're a lawyer. There's no such thing as not. But to work hard and not see the fruits of your labor is a special kind of pain, I would imagine. Yeah, I'm like that
Yeah, yeah.
sucks.
And I would be super, super curious for you to run and this would be good for you for advertising as well, for like, or not necessarily advertising, but like figuring out if you could get more of these types of students for 4L education, is like see how many of your past students, like if you could send out like a survey to them, like left a firm of 50 or more lawyers to start their own practice,
Oh,
like doing
yeah.
trademarks. Because I have this hypothesis that we're going to see a wave of more lawyers realizing AI could do this work in minutes. I used to bill all my hours for, and see the writing on the wall. And they're going to discover you. They're going to discover me. They're going to discover other, thought leaders in this space. And they're going to realize, oh, I could just start my own firm. This is why I own the domain to howtorunalawfirm.com. Right?
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that. I didn't know
So,
that you own
so
that domain. I love that.
Lauren Lester and I right now, it just redirects to Lauren Lester and I doing a 18 episodes where it's 30 minutes each per episode, like series that we did on how to run a law firm. But I might do something more with that domain in the future, right? Because I really think like lawyers are going to leave, and that's a huge that's hundreds of thousands of lawyers. That's like 200 to 300,000 lawyers in the U.S. that are potentially going to be people who pick up our content and maybe even, work with us in some way.
Yeah,
So I'd be curious to know what your data show on that, because I have like anecdotal data, like LinkedIn DMs, from big law attorneys and
yeah.
in-house attorneys, like who have like left to do their own thing. So yeah, just throwing that out there. So in the few more minutes that we have here, I mean, I know you're in Turks and Caicos, but do you have another call scheduled? Do you
I
have a
don't. I
hard
have
stop?
no, I don't. And I was going to I tell you that at some point that I'm loving our conversation. And so if you've got more and you want it to like go until there's a natural ending, I am so here for it. I never ever bookend my podcast interviews because this is the beauty of these fun conversations. When you get going, you're like, I don't want to hop off and do something else. I want to keep it, keep talking.
Look, there's a reason Joe Rogan goes for 3 hours and people actually watch, right?
Yeah.
And like why I had to do the 18 30-minute episodes with Lauren, because like we had, you just have to keep talking sometimes.
Yeah.
But I want to sort of round out the conversation though still, but I want to talk about technology. And you
Yeah.
don't have to go deep on tech and like how you use it in every single nuanced way, right? But like my listeners, my audience, because I'm video, we're everything. What is a podcast today? It's a video too.
Yeah, exactly.
My audience really likes the technology talk. So whether it's for your firm or whether it's for your, 4L education, like what platforms are you using? What tech are you using? Like, especially for like, how do you take payments? Like that's a big topic of conversation on the pod. So share all that stuff.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm pretty much an open book on basically anything. I'm like, ask me, because I think that's so much of it is like, if you have the guts to ask the question, then someone should open, if you're truly a mentor, which is what I consider myself. And when people ask me like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I'm an instructor. So I'm famously not a coach. I've never been one, and I don't identify with that for not necessarily negative connotations, but I don't think it fairly defines what it is that I do. So I'm an instructor, I teach. I think I'm more probably akin to a consultant than a coach, if anything, because I'm more like, this is what you need to do. You have a problem. This is the solution, or here are 2 to 3 choices for a solution. I'm not asking you how you feel. I'm not interested in that. I'm not asking you to arrive at that on your own, which is what coaching is. You hired me or you're paying me to give you the solution. But in terms of tech, so I really, really enjoy tech and tools. I love playing around and demoing different ones. And I think though that I'm maybe a little different in the sense that I've never had a problem to dare to do things the way that works for me. And even if 99% of people would think I was crazy, I still will do it because I know it works. And I've proven it to myself internally and with my team. I'm like, then that's what we're doing. If it works, it works. If it makes money and I'm not miserable, we've won, right? And so I would love to start with, I'll answer the payment question and then I'll secondary hit with the project management, because that's like a great example of what I just said. So payment wise, nothing fun or impressive there. We use LawPay for the law practice, then Stripe for basically everything else. So a lot of times people have the question of, well, I have knowledge I'd like to productize, and whether it's in workbooks, PDFs, or courses. And so how does that look? So you definitely want to do it as a separate entity. That's very important. And there's lots of reasons, but you
No
have
legal advice given on this podcast. Everything's for educational purposes only.
zero legal advice, yes, but informational speaking, sure. And like I said, I'm an open book with regard to trademarks, how to start and grow a digital products business, how to obviously start and run and grow a law firm, any of the things. But for that, we use Stripe. And I think that there are certain things where it's just the industry standard and there's a few other choices, but like I don't really care to explore them if they work, and it's kind of more or less the consistent across the choices. What I do get more choosy about is tools and platforms that I'm using regularly, because then I get really picky about UI and making sure that it fits and nestles nicely and stuff, especially because we're a remote team, most of us haven't met, and I run everything virtually. So yeah, so Stripe for payments. In terms of fulfillment for the courses and products, we use Kajabi. I've been with them for years. Do I love every corner of the platform? Absolutely not. There are so many issues with it. And that's an important thing of tech, is there's never going to be a perfect tool unless you want to get into the developer lifestyle, which is not my ministry. So we work with it, we go with it. I've used Carta in the past. I don't know if it's as popular now, but I stopped using it years ago. But that was one platform we used before that. And then along the way, I experimented with a course delivery platform that is specific to lawyering and CLE credit, which is called CE21. And I just did personally, again, as the leader, just did not like it. And even though my team thought it was fine, I didn't like it. And you're never fully out of it, right? You still have some involvement in all the pieces. And so I was like, I don't like it. It doesn't work for me. It's not a negative connotation. It's just, I think it was very much a UI thing. And I'm neurodivergent, so UI is very important to me. I simply won't do it. And then that's a problem because you have to do it, do the things. So so we're with Kajabi. A few years ago, we got approval and a partnership with the American Bar Association to provide accreditation services from the different states for CLE credit for my courses, which has been a huge honor and privilege, because if you're a course creator in this space, that there's nobody and nothing else you'd ever want. And so after that, we thought we'd use CE21, and it didn't work out. But it turns out that you can code anything for your standards. So I paid developers and some very talented coders to get Kajabi to the place where we can administer CLE credit. Lawyers, you don't realize this necessarily as you're watching a video, but the disability to forward and fast track through a video, that's all on purpose, because we can't have you cheating through CLE, for regulatory reasons. So that's what we use in terms of course fulfillment. So now on to the fun example. So project management, which is, I think, the heartbeat of any business. How are you organizing and assigning work to people? Because unless you're the one doing it all, which we don't want you to be, it's like the violation of principle number one, right? Is that we don't want a solopreneur or anything. Well, how are you going to assign and keep track of links and work product and stuff? So I mean, when I tell you I have looked at every tool and then some over and over. Asana, I've revisited and formed that account over and over and come back and I'm like, oh, this is where we left off. Monday.com, Trello, you name it. I've looked at them all. And this is not to be confused with case management systems like Clio and Practice Panther and things like that, because that's not what I'm referencing, right? So all of them to say, you want to know where we landed? This may make you chuckle a little. I don't know.
I am so excited for this, Sonia, because I played around with all these tools too, and I know people who've built out Airtable like to do things
Oh yeah,
like.
that
So
one too.
tell me,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Apple Notes ecosystem. And we've never been
Oh, this is so cool.
never
Oh,
been more
yes.
profitable. I tell you,
It's been getting so much better though, right?
it's
Like you can share it like
amazing.
Google Docs. you could there's all I'm started collaborating with some clients inside of the Apple Notes app and stuff. So because I'm all in the Mac ecosystem as well.
Same. Yeah. So obviously that I think has a lot to do with it is consistency across platforms. So we have one team member that so currently is on a PC, and that's just because she's a little newer with us. And so typically, when you're in the introductory period with Team Sonia, about 30 to 60 days ish, it's a probationary trial period where we want to see if it's a good fit. And so we don't send the MacBook quite yet, but then once we decide that it's a good fit and we move forward and everything becomes a little more permanent, we send out a MacBook because I feel very strongly that everyone needs to be on the Mac ecosystem because I am, and I just need that consistency. I've seen so many formatting and PC. It's a no, and that's where I think there's like 1% of me where I'm like, I'm the boss, I get to decide. And there's not a lot of things I feel strongly like that about, but that's one of them is like, just I don't have to justify it. Everyone needs to be on the Mac ecosystem, period. That's it, right? So that helps across Mac, iPhone, MacBook, iPhone, iPad, things like, I mean, even in my house, there's like the Apple HomePod for speaker and things like that. But yeah, Apple Notes,
Yeah, I'm so ready. Like they keep delaying the HomePod Mini too, and I'm like, gosh, come on, Apple, just release it. I'm so ready. It needs an upgrade, like the
I
HomePods.
mean, it is by far my least favorite of my Apple products. It glitches, it doesn't work. Sometimes it stops playing. I mean, I could go on and on, but
But but the pros far outweigh the cons being in the Apple ecosystem. I mean, I'm using continuity camera, right? I'm surrounded by Mac stuff, and Logitech is my favorite compatible brand with
yeah.
Apple stuff.
So good, so
Yeah,
good. And so I don't think that I would have been able to or wanted to make the jump to Apple Notes even a couple of years ago. But as I've again, that's I guess the joy and the benefit in being willing to revisit tools because they get updates and new features all the time. But Apple Notes is by far just so impressive, so easy and simplistic. And the best tool out there is the one that you will use. And that's the thing, it's on my phone anyway. And so as I've started carefully sharing this, because this is a new development over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 months, as we came home back to Notes. It's because I discovered all the features and all the bells and whistles. And as I've shared this, again among people, I think this is the first time I've said it publicly since we did it, but so that's fun. Every single attorney and person I've told is like, wait, that's genius because everyone uses Notes in some capacity. It's you got a random grocery list, books someone told you about, because it's the first thing when someone starts talking in person or you don't have to log in, you don't have to worry about being logged out. This sounds so silly, but I feel like I'm not alone in this. I cannot be. Is the two-factor authentication for everything. To order a pizza, to look at your banks, I mean everything is just whether it's highly security related and needs 2FA or it's not, like ordering a pizza, everything requires it now. And I'm all about reducing friction, as I mentioned in the beginning of this interview. And I felt so much friction with it needing to reload, and then it would log me out. And then what's my password for this and this and the two-factor? I'm like, by the time, and it's like, this is exactly how it goes. Password gets sent to your phone. You pick up your phone. You got a text. So now you're looking at the text. They need your approval on something. So you got to go, and you're like, why? What was I doing? The code's now expired. This is the story. It was the story of my life, I felt like. And Apple Notes never logs you out. You just live in it. If your iPhone's on, there it is. If your computer's on, there it is. And you'd be surprised that that alone helps so much. And then I discovered all the features and AI integrations. It's incredible.
I have Face ID protection for some notes. You could turn that on, so you
Yes,
could make them locked and secure.
some of them are because, like I said, for everyone in some capacity uses them. And so if you go to your notes, you'll find some random thoughts or you typed out a letter you never sent to someone because you were angry or paragraphs or whatever. I mean, you were just in your feelings. People have used it for like personal diaries and things. Everyone's got some notes on their phone, but it can do so much by way of folders, subfolders, tags, unifying themes and concepts, just organizing links, sharing and collaborating. I mean, it does a lot of what I need it to do. So I'm very happy.
So I have a question for you then,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I've never been able to go down this road before, and I just deleted all these apps off my parents' devices. But like Keynote, Apple Pages, right? Like what do they call their Excel? Like whatever
Oh,
numbers.
number. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're in the ecosystem, like there might actually be some really good integrations with those platforms. You don't need to pay for an Apple Mail. Like you don't need to pay for Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 or Office. So like, are you leveraging those, or are you in Microsoft or Google?
No, we're Google Workspace. I love love Google Docs and spreadsheets. I really do. And that's something that I don't feel like can replace, or Apple Notes can replace. And so, but they work beautifully together, because what I wanted was an overall system to unify all the things that are going on in Google Docs, right? So even if it's a team member that we hired or a contractor we're working with, and the work product is sent to us in a Google Doc, which is how I like it, or a Google Sheet if it's applicable. Well, where does that link live? And how is it accessible by the people that need it on a moment's notice? And I'm one of those people, again, I guess that's the neurodivergency in me, but I'm very much a burst of energy type of worker and a seasonal, right? So I cannot, the way that my brain operates and the speed and turbo creativity, I can't sustain that. And so I'm very much like, I'm in a work block, I'm in deep and focus mode. And then I might like relax the rest of the week or the month even. I mean, I'm very much, it depends on what we're doing. And so when I'm in the mode, I need it and I want it now. Where's that link? I don't want to go looking for it. I don't want it lost. And I don't want to I don't want to have friction of being logged out or in, and where did someone save it and the interface, or I don't know. I just think no system really delivered to me what I needed. And I felt like conversely, what the systems did do that took away productivity was you get so set up in setting it up, and you're paying someone, and it's like you're losing productivity time to hire a Dubsado expert and law mat, and nothing against the platforms or the people who do the setting of the up, because there's a time and a place if it works for you. But for me, I felt like I was just avoiding the actual work. And I'm like, well, if you could just find the links and everything was organized in a way that you didn't have to go looking for things and it was seamless. And the other thing is that I work off my phone far more often than I'm at a traditional laptop. And I think it's because it reminds me of being chained to my desk as an associate. So I I work a lot off my phone. And so I needed
That's what your iPad is for. It's just a big phone.
just
Come
a
on,
big phone.
get
I
the
know.
data
Yeah.
plan.
The iPad comes everywhere too. And there's actually, I'm also, when I laptop, I'm also a second screen kind of girl. And so I've got a foldable second screen that travels with me, but even that feels too bulky. And I think I'm working on this, but I think you can beam and set up, like maybe by Bluetooth, your iPad to be the second screen or something. So I'm
It's
working on
called
that.
Sidecar. It's called
Yes.
Sidecar,
Yes.
and it's a simple setting to turn on. And if I wasn't working off an ultra wide already, like at home, I'd use Sidecar. And like rather than, because I don't have a laptop, I just have my iPad Pro M4 with a Magic Keyboard. And I probably overpaid for the Magic Keyboard. I think I've seen like Logitech does sell like one that's like half the price, but whatever. It's Apple and it's
Yeah.
really good and it's so well designed. But like I can with Sidecar or with just like sending my screen to my iPad, work anywhere in my home off my iPad. Now, when you have a
Amazing.
beautiful setup and an ultra wide monitor, you don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
But if like my kid is homesick, going back to being an entrepreneur and the benefits of it, right? Like I could work from the kitchen table on my iPad, but really be working off my Mac.
Exactly. And it's these
Yeah.
little things that become very big things. And when I think you have to have, I guess the first step is awareness of what your friction is, and then to solve the friction as quickly and efficiently as possible. And if that means, you may have to spend some money on the front end to get the setup, but if you're the kind of person that gets inspired in different locations the way I do, then you have to be mobile friendly. And so that's why, again, it sounds like I work for Apple Notes, but I don't, I swear. It's just the latest
People ask me if I'm
counterintuitive.
people ask me if I'm sponsored by Perplexity,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
Paxton, yes, but I was also saying I was singing their praises way before they were a sponsor. That's why they
Yeah.
decided to sponsor. But,
Yeah.
but I feel like you've got like this is a course coming soon on formal education is how to use Apple Notes to be a project management platform.
I think I think there's always room for that, but there are so many great content creators that I learned from in a short. I binged it one night actually over the holiday season because I was inching towards it, like I would say October, November timeframe. And then over the holidays, again, I'm a burst kind of person. So I never say, oh, I'm gonna work through the holidays or I'm not gonna. It's like, I mean, I do this because I love it at the end. I think most of us feel that way. And so I geek out on this stuff. I love it. And so I went on a rabbit hole and I just watched one video after another. And that is the story behind how basically everything has been born in my life is, or work wise, I would say, is one night I just went down. I watched 2 hours worth of Apple Notes tutorials, and it was set up within a couple of days, and everyone knew about it, and here we are. So,
I
yeah,
mean, look, I still think you doing that and recontextualizing it for a law firm or for a business serving lawyers and law firms. I think like that transformation is still more relevant than some other lawyer going down those same rabbit holes, right? Like I teach these podcasting for lawyers and how to live stream and stuff. And like I learned from content creators of like how to do this stuff and what equipment to buy. And I bought the equipment and I tested it out and I returned stuff I didn't like. And like I formed opinions and recontextualized it for a law firm. And there's value to that,
Yeah.
right? Like I still think like that'd be super interesting. So we'll see coming soon. Like this is January 22nd for folks who like to keep track. And so I think this will probably air in March is my current publication schedule, although I may bump it up because there's some really good stuff in here. And so by then, I don't know, maybe we'll see what's on what's on For
You
All
never know.
Education. foralleducation.com, right, is
Yeah.
the URL.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could keep talking tech. I don't want to I don't want to make this too long because folks do tune out if we wait too long, if we keep these too long. So I'll say thanks so much. I just want to highlight some of the tech things that you said. And yes, you don't need like you should not be hiring a developer for your law firm. Like that's what software companies are for. If you could at all avoid it, but that is. I was so dissatisfied with all of the technology available for my law firm that rather than hire a developer for my firm, I co-founded a Practi to help law firms use subscriptions and fixed fees, right?
There you
So
go.
like sometimes you might find that, Sonia, I think you gave really good advice there. But if you are, and it's been done before, Flatiron Law Group has some great M&A based AI tools that the name does escape me since like I don't have it pulled up here, that they were developing internally and then now they're developing software to give to law firms, right? So like that is something that's done. So if you are going to hire a developer, do some market research and see if maybe you could turn it into a legal tech company. So
Yeah.
this is something to
I love
something to
that.
put out there.
Yeah.
So if I mentioned the website, but if folks wanted to reach out, I mean, at Trademark Lawyer Lady on Instagram, obviously, right? I mean, that's where like the vast majority of the content stuff that you post, I pull it up. You've got tons of videos on there with thousands of views. And so it looks like you're putting out just a ton of content on there.
Yeah, and it's something I continue to do. I think it's so fun to be able to connect with people. Social media has been such a fun way. I mean, there's trackable ways it's led me clients and students, but there's non-trackable ways as well. And I think so much of it has been the joy of people following me for whatever amount of time, and then we get to meet in person randomly. Like, oh my God, I follow you, and like you're real. I'm like, I am, I'm right here. And I'm one of the things that I think is important for me is I'm exactly the same online as I am offline. I talk the same way, I teach the same way. And so I think that consistency is just, you just have to keep it real with people. I think a lot of us needed permission to not be this like buttoned up proper lawyer. And it's okay to make jokes and smile a little and laugh and crack a joke or two. It's okay. We can enjoy this along the way. It's fun.
Absolutely. And I guess I should ask, because like this is a requirement now in the podcast sphere,
Yeah.
is you got to mention at least one AI tool that you like to use
One
when
what?
it comes
Sorry.
to technology. One AI tool, one artificial intelligence tool. Like what's one that you're using that you really like?
Oh my God, so many. Uncle
You could say them
Claude
all.
and
That's
Chat.
okay
Yeah,
too.
Uncle Claude and Chat are probably my two favorite. I mean, I think I find Chat GBT to be so I think I'm still really on the Chat GBT train. Claude sometimes. I do like Perplexity as well. I guess it depends on what it is I'm trying to do, but for every day my thumbs go immediately to ChatGPT. I do have the paid subscription. I think it gives me a bit of a better experience and better content back. But yeah, I'm loving it. I ask it to do all kinds of things, and I'm learning more about what it can do from my friends. So I think the conversation is really important to keep being open to, and just to play around with it and say, you know, my favorite prompt, not that you asked, but my favorite prompt is pretend you are a blank and you are tasked with blank, 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 blank. And so you're basically speaking about yourself in the third person and whatever it is you don't want to be doing. So if you are doing accounting or financial stuff for your firm, pretend you are the CFO of an immigration law firm or a trademark law firm, and you are tasked with doing blank, blank. So I'm loving it, and it's been very helpful.
The only amendment I have to that is before you say that, which is a great prompt, tell the AI who you are. And you don't have to tell it literally who you are, but you could tell it, in the what makes sense for that. So like, I am the owner of a trademark law firm,
Yeah.
right? You are a CFO. You are my
Oh,
CFO.
I
And
love
so by
that.
giving it just a little bit more context, and it's going to understand, oh, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're a lawyer, it will make its answer even better and more contextualized to who
Mm-hmm.
you are. So
Mm-hmm.
so even if you have memory turned on with these tools and you're paying for them, it might already have that context, but it's still better. Maybe you're maybe Sonia, you're doing it for like somebody who is an immigration lawyer, and you wanted to who owns their firm, and so you want to tell it, no, ignore your context about me. I want you to pretend I'm an immigration lawyer, and you're the CFO for my firm.
I
So
love
like
that.
giving it just a little bit more context really helps a lot. All right, so we've mentioned the websites, but just one last time in case people fast forward to the end. Sonia, if people want to reach out, get in touch, what's the best way for them to do that?
So 4L Education is our website, 4leducation.com. That's where you'll be able to see a little more about me. You can click on courses and see all of our offerings. That's where you can learn more about 2 weeks of trademarks if you're interested. But if you're more of a social media person, as am I, at Trademark Lawyer Lady on YouTube and Instagram are the 2 major ones that I use and I'm active on. So you can DM me anytime. My name is Sonia Lakhany, so that's what you can use to search me on Facebook or LinkedIn, both of which I'm very active on in terms of Facebook groups and again DMs. I mean, I monitor every single one of my DM boxes. So however it is you want to chat, I'm open and I love a good connection. So if you at all want to talk about anything that we've discussed or not, that if it sparked a thought or something, I'm all ears. I'm an open book. So I hope to hear from some of you.
All right, awesome. Well, stick around because we got to let this upload to the cloud, but we'll sign off. Sonia, one last time, thanks so much for coming on Law Subscribed.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Make someone's day by sharing this episode with them. Remember to sign up for your free account at Practi.ai to trade billing time for recurring revenue. Until next time, this is Matthew Kurbis with Law Subscribed.